Here are 20 things that I learned from getting more than a dozen D1 scholarships to schools like Mississippi State, Baylor, and UConn. So kind of been through the process quite a bit and just figured that I would show you what I learned so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did. So number one, you need to contact 10 times as many college coaches as you think that you do. When I was in college recruiting, I just sort of assumed, all right, I'll contact like 10 or 15 schools and it'll be okay. It's not okay. You have to contact pretty much 10 times that number. So the number that we usually shoot for is 100 now. And I've noticed that the athletes who contact at least 100 coaches have significantly better recruiting processes in terms of the number of schools that they get interested in that they talk to than people who contact 10, 15, 20 schools. So you pretty much need to 10x the number of coaches, however many you think you need to contact, multiply that number by 10, and then go contact that many schools, and you will probably get the results that you're looking for. Number two, video matters way more than stats, and this is specifically for skill-based sports. Skill-based sports would be something like baseball, basketball, football, soccer, right? They're not like time-based sports. A time-based sport would be swimming or track and field, right, where you have an actual stopwatch and that's what matters the most. In skill-based sports, video is way more important than stats. You could have a really good stat line, but a coach is still going to say, awesome, send me your video. And so it's actually a good thing for you because it means that you don't need incredible stats in order to get recruited by the schools that you want to play for, right? You just have to actually be a good player and have great video that proves that, right? Number three, you want to email schools at every division, okay? Now, I was under the impression that if I was a D1 player, I should just only email D1 schools, and that was a complete mistake for a number of reasons, right? The first reason that that's a mistake is if you're not a D1 player and you only email D1 schools, you're going to get zero interest, like no interest. That's a problem, right? Another reason why this would be a mistake is because you are trying to generate as much momentum as you can. And if you only email D1 schools, you're probably not going to generate that much momentum. And so it's easier to generate momentum if you're emailing schools at every level, right? Because now you're getting a little bit from D3, a little bit from D2, maybe a couple NAIs, you got some D1s, and now you just like 5x the number of schools that you're talking to simply because you contacted schools at every division. It's also a great idea to have a safety net, right? Like you may want to go D1, your kid may want to go D1, that's awesome, but it's probably helpful to have a safety net of like D3 schools or NAIA schools, junior colleges, right? Where it's like, if we're not able to generate interest from D1s, we still have a place to play. We can transfer out at another date. And so it's just a safer way of going about the process. Number four, excuse me. College coaches want you to follow up with them. This is something I completely misunderstood because I thought that following up with college coaches would annoy them. If I contacted them a lot, it would annoy them. And that is true. Like you can totally annoy coaches if you don't follow up properly. But if you're a good player and you're not annoying in the way that you follow up with coaches, you're actually doing them a favor and they want you to do that. Because if you don't follow up with them and you rely on them to contact you every single time, that's pretty overwhelming for them. Like that's just a lot of work to have to follow up with you every time that they want to talk to you. That's a lot of work. And so you want to take some of that burden off of them and you want to carry some of that burden. And so they actually want you to follow up with them if you're a good player and if you're following up in the right way. Number five, most showcases and camps are money grabs. So a lot of the camps and showcases that you see around at colleges and put on by third parties, like they're just out to get your money. You're not going to get a ton of interest from those camps. And so when it's possible, and it's not always possible, but when you can, attend camps for schools you're already talking to. So if you go and send emails and you get 3 coaches interested, then those 3 schools, those are camps that you should consider going to because you've already had a conversation with the coach. They've already seen your video. They already think that you're good enough. Maybe they've checked the academic box and they're like, all right, we could get him into the school. Those are all good things. And so you automatically have an advantage when you step on campus because you've already contacted that coach. They know who you are. And so this isn't always possible, but when possible, you want to do that because it's going to give you a huge advantage anytime that you go to a showcase or a camp. Number 6, which is funny because I was talking about how I got all these D1 options, but I'll tell you this, junior college is legit. I went to 2 different Division I schools, and then in between them, I actually went to a junior college, and I loved my junior college experience. I think more families should consider junior college. I never thought that I would end up at a junior college. I had great grades out of high school. Like, I just didn't think I was going to end up there. And there's a stigma around junior college that it's like not as good and all these things. Got to tell you, I absolutely loved my junior college experience. I think more families would benefit by exploring junior college as a legitimate option, and especially with what's going on in the transfer portal right now, I think that more families are going to have to start considering junior college because it's just getting way competitive at D1. Number 7, the whole point of sending an email is to get the coach to watch your video. So it's not to get a scholarship. That's not going to happen. They're not going to get an email from you, watch your video, and then say, awesome, we'd love to have you on campus. We're going to give you an offer. It's just not going to happen, right? And so what you're trying to accomplish with that email is to get them to watch your video, because if they watch your video, hopefully you can start a conversation. You're trying to start a conversation. And then over time, you can drip out other pieces of information, and you can drip out more video, and you can go to showcases and camps and prove to them that you are the perfect player for their team. But the initial catalyst for all of that happening was that they opened your email, read your email, and watched your video. And so everything in your email should point a coach to watching your video. Number 8, you can use a social media profile instead of a recruiting profile as long as you know what you're doing. So you can use specifically like a Twitter profile, right? Twitter, some sports you could use Instagram, but like you don't need some like NCSA profile or a sports recruit profile or something. Like you don't really need that. You can use a social media profile as your one-stop shop of where they can get everything that they need on you, and it works just fine. It's free, and in fact, coaches spend more time on Twitter and Instagram than they do other recruiting sites. So you're putting your profile where coaches spend the most of their time. I don't know about you. That's where I want my profile to be. Number 9, highlight videos over 3 minutes are disliked by college coaches. So everyone in recruiting, like pretty much everyone, told me, hey, take your best clips, put them into a highlight video and send it off to coaches. And that's just like what was done. And to be honest with you, it's still what's done, which is crazy to me. But that is still what is done. College coaches don't like this. It makes it very challenging for them to recruit a player. They're not going to sit down and watch 3 to 5 to 7 minutes of a player that they've never seen or talked to before. They're just not going to, right? They would much rather get that video in bite-sized pieces so that it's less time consuming and they know what they're clicking on, right? If you have a 3-minute highlight video, you can't title that video about what's in the video because there's too many skills to showcase. But if you send like individual videos, then you can title them more specifically and appropriately, and coaches will be way more likely to click on those videos. Number 10, the easier you make it for a school to recruit you, the more likely they are to. So I remember I was talking to Oklahoma, and I had sent them a ton of video, and they came out to California to watch me play. And after the game, I was talking to the coach, and he said, Jack, it was the easiest plane ticket I ever bought. You sent me so much video. I knew exactly who I was coming out to watch. I wish everyone was doing what you're doing. You made my life so easy. And that is the goal. The goal is to make it so incredibly easy for coaches to recruit your kid, because the easier it is for them to recruit them, the more likely they are to. You're just removing obstacles between you and the college coach. And that's exactly what you want to do. And so every action that you take in college recruiting should be centered around how do I make the process easier on college coaches? Because ironically, that's how you'll get the outcome that you want. Number 11, you only need 3 things to get a scholarship: talent, evidence, and exposure. People like to complicate college recruiting and say, oh, there's all these different moving parts and pieces. And yeah, to some degree, sure. But in reality, you only need 3 things. Like, you need talent, so you have to be good enough to play in college. If you're not, there's no amount of marketing or exposure that can solve that problem, right? So you have the talent, then evidence, right? You have to actually prove that you have the talent. You can't just say it, you can't just believe it or think it. You have to prove that your kid is talented enough. You do that through video, and you do that through recruiting events, right? And then the last thing you need, if you have talent and you have evidence, is you need exposure. You need enough college coaches to see that evidence enough times. And if you have those three things, you're good enough. You have evidence of that, and enough college coaches see that evidence, it's pretty hard to go unrecruited, right? And so if you don't have the interest and offers that you're looking for right now, it means that you're missing one of those three things or more, like multiple of them, right? But in the end, we can complicate the process as much as we want, but those are the only three things that you really need. Number 12, the market, which is college coaches, will tell you how good you are. You don't need to guess. Just see who responds to you. So I talk to a lot of parents who are like, hey, listen, I don't know how good my kid is. Can you tell me how good my kid is? Like, that'll help me know which schools we should email. And I'm like, no. You have this backwards. Like, you should be contacting all sorts of different kinds of schools, and you let the market decide how good your kid is. Like, college coaches will let you know because they'll either respond or they won't, right? Like, that's what will happen, because the reality is, I'm not the one who makes the decisions. Like, I could take a look at your kid and tell you what I think, but I'm not the one that would give them a scholarship. And so, like, I could look at your kid and be like, yeah, kid looks great. And then college coaches look at him and they're like, yeah, not what we're looking for, right? So just skip the middleman. Anyone who's telling you that they're going to do that for you, just skip that and go straight to the college coaches. I promise you, you will know really quickly whether they're interested or not. And so instead of trying to filter down early, like, go generate as much interest as you can, see what types of schools respond to you, and then contact more of those schools. Number 13, coaches will not magically stumble across you. Your talent will almost certainly not put you on the map. You need to learn how to market yourself. So I was always told that if you're good enough, coaches will find you. That's like what I was told all the time. And it's like absolutely not true. Like, there are so many players who are good enough to play in college that college coaches don't know about, that they don't even know that they exist. And so they never end up playing in college, even though they're good enough to get there, right? Coaches will not magically stumble across you. There are hundreds of thousands of players in your sport. You are hidden beneath all of them right now, like your kid is. And you need to take them from being hidden underneath and take them out of them and put it right in front of college coaches so that they can't miss them. And that is called marketing, right? That's exposure. And so you need the talent, yes, but then you also need to be able to market that talent to college coaches. And that is a critical piece of getting interest in offers. You cannot rely on talent alone. It's just way too hyper competitive nowadays, and it's oversaturated. So you need some sort of marketing. Number 14, no one is coming to save you. Your high school coach, travel coach, friends, etc., they're not going to pull you out of a hole. If you're like, oh my gosh, my recruiting process is terrible right now, this is not going how I wanted it to, hopefully something will change in the future. It won't change in the future unless you change it. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to magically give you a $50,000 scholarship. It's not going to happen. You have to go out and get it. You have to go get it yourself. You have to figure out how the recruiting process works, because nobody is coming to save you, and you have to take ownership if you truly want to change the circumstances of your kid's recruiting process. Number 15, college recruiting doesn't always make sense. Schools recruit bad players, right? So in college recruiting, you think that 1 + 1 = 2, but that's not always true. 1 + 1 = 5. In some cases, it equals 0. In some cases, it equals 4. It's random. So it doesn't always make sense. Sometimes schools recruit bad players. You're like, why did they recruit that kid? That kid is not that good. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes interested schools take forever to respond. They might be really interested in you, but they don't respond for a month. Why? Because college recruiting doesn't make sense. And sometimes you'll have coaches who are acting very interested, right? They're like leading you on, because eventually they just go away and they never give you anything. Sometimes college recruiting doesn't make sense. If you're trying to make sense of everything in college recruiting, you're going to drive yourself crazy. You just have to understand that that's not always going to be the case. And you just have to continue putting in the efforts and the actions that are going to put you in the best position to succeed. Which leads me to number 16, which is focus on inputs, not on outputs. And so it's not about the results that you're generating tomorrow. It's about, are you doing the right things to put yourself in a good position 6 months from now, right? Like, are you taking the right actions on daily and weekly basis to put you in a great position 6 months from now? Because that is what's going to get you interest and offers, in college recruiting. It's not about, it's not a vending machine. Like, I use this analogy when I talk about emails. It's not a vending machine where like you put, $1 in and then you get a snack out. It's not where you send an email and you get a response. It's like you put in 100 emails, right? And then you only get like 6 responses, but one of those 6 ends up giving you an offer worth $50,000, right? Like that's how college recruiting works. So you focus on inputs, you don't focus on outputs, focus on the process that's gonna get you the result that you're looking for. Number 17, acquire as much leverage as you can. When I say leverage, leverage means interest in offers. So for instance, someone who only has 1 scholarship offer from a school does not have much leverage. Somebody who has 10 scholarship offers has a lot of leverage. You want to acquire as much leverage as possible. Here's an example why. If you are waiting on your dream school to offer you, you've been talking to them, they seem interested, but they haven't given you a tangible offer. If you only have 1 scholarship offer from another school and you're trying to wait on your dream school, you can't really afford to wait on that dream school. Because if your 1 scholarship offer gets pulled and that school decides to go another way, you don't have any other backup plan. You don't have any other school to go to. That's a problem. But if you have 10 scholarship offers and you're waiting on your dream school, now you can. Because if 5 of those offers vanish overnight, you still have 5 places that you can go play. That is leverage, because now you can wait out your dream school as long as you want. It's a much safer position. So everything you do in college recruiting should be trying to build up as much leverage as you possibly can, because then you hold the cards, not college coaches. Number 18, the process will take 3 times as long as you think it will. So play the long game. So a lot of parents will be like, hey, I'm really hoping that this process is over in 6 months. It actually might be more like a year and a half, like 18 months, right? Or it could be, hey, I'm expecting the process to be over in 3 months. It actually may be like 9 months, right? The process will take longer than you think it will. If you try to rush the process, you may actually hurt your chances. So forget about trying to get this done as quickly as possible. I know you want it to be done as quickly as possible. You want it to be behind you. You don't want to have to worry about this. You want to enjoy senior year or junior year. Like, I get it. Trust me, I've been there. I get it. But don't shoot yourself in the foot by trying to speed up the process and then lose out on other opportunities. Play the long game, be in it for the long haul, and that will give you the best possible chance of getting your kid to a school that they love. Number 19, put a greater emphasis on strategy than money. So what happens in college recruiting a lot of times is that parents don't know how to navigate college recruiting. So what they do is they say, I don't have a strategy. I don't know how to do this. So instead, what I'm going to do is throw a bunch of money at the process and go to a bunch of camps and showcases, and hopefully it will work out for us. This is a terrible strategy. You are going to waste a lot of money and time and weekends, and you're going to have a lot of heartache if this is how you're trying to navigate college recruiting. So instead, learn how the recruiting process actually works. Educate yourself. Learn how to systematically generate interest and offers in college recruiting. If you don't know how to, find someone that does, right? Put a greater emphasis on strategy than money, and you will save yourself tens of thousands of dollars in college recruiting. I promise, because in high school, my family literally spent tens of thousands of dollars. And it did not work that well for me. And then the moment that I got to junior college and I started focusing on strategy and how to figure out how the process actually works, I actually got interest, right? Focus on strategy, not on money. Number 20, you want the best fit school, not the school that has the best athletic program. So it's not about picking the school that you can brag to your friends about, right? It's not about that. It's about finding the school that is a best fit for you. What school is the best fit for your kid? I promise that's more important than anything else. Because if your kid ends up going to a school that they are not that excited about, they're not going to have a good time. They're going to end up having to transfer out of there anyway. So you want to find the school that you are most excited about because you think that your kid is going to enjoy being there. And I've been to schools that had crazy facilities and uniforms and things that you think someone would like, and I didn't enjoy it. And then I went to a junior college where we changed in the dugouts and rode a yellow school bus to games, and I absolutely loved it. Find the school that's the best fit for you, not the one that you can brag to your friends about. So if you're the parent of a high school athlete and you're dissatisfied with the amount of interest and offers that you currently have in college recruiting and you want to fix that, then book a call with us. We'll walk you through what we do and how we can help you. The link is in the description, and I will see you guys next time.